Hi besties, welcome back. Don't really know an intro yet. I should have probably worked on that. But we will just say hi besties, welcome back to the Don't Be Shy podcast. I have tried to film this multiple times on multiple occasions, but it just, life is just funny like that sometimes. And yes, I got incredible feedback from the first episode. So thank you to everybody that reached out, watched, followed, etc., etc. I appreciate it so much because this is finally something that feels like it's my own, if that makes sense. Like, I absolutely love doing the podcast with my cousin. Like I said, she doesn't live as local to me as I would like anymore. So I think just having this platform and still being able to talk on a podcast is really cool and something that I genuinely missed and didn't think that I would love as much as I do. But yes, the first episode, which was obviously the last episode that I had posted, was just kind of like an intro to what I wanted to do and like how I started being on social media and recording videos, being on YouTube, all of that. If you have not watched that or listened to it, please go do so now. It is officially like on pretty much all streaming platforms. I have my YouTube channel, which the video is on. You can watch that there. If you have Spotify, it's available there with the video as well. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, I believe iHeartRadio. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts. So that is very exciting. And yeah, today's episode is going to be, I guess the best way to put, I don't know how to I don't know what I'm doing. I'm still new here, guys. Today's episode is about protecting your peace and how I feel like my life changed for the better and my outlook on things definitely changed when I started protecting my peace more. I think that has definitely come to light within the past few years. It's become very popular. Everyone's like, I'm protecting my peace and truly fishing out people that, just don't really benefit you or anything that you stand for or your life goals, whatever. I think protecting your peace is extremely important, especially if you are, surrounded by a bunch of negativity or fake friends, fake relationships, all of that. And yeah, I think being around negative energies is just so draining. And it definitely, I think, at least for me personally, it just absorbed me. And I just feel like I was in more of a depressive state when I was around negative people or these negative energies. And I think it was like a hard pill to swallow that, sometimes the closest people to you are just your biggest haters, truly. And it sucks when you have people in your close circle who should be like, you're doing great. You are, you have your whole future ahead of you. Whatever you want to do, we fully 1000% support you. And when you don't have that, you just constantly are doubting yourself, and it's just not a good place to be in. At least for me, I just was always second guessing myself. Everybody else's opinions just always mattered to me and I needed approval. Otherwise, I just talked myself out of, something that I wanted to do. And it's well, if I don't have the support, then obviously maybe I'm not capable of doing that, or they know me so well, so maybe I should just take their advice and just not do this because it's going to fail. Majority of my life, I have been like that. I am a huge people pleaser, trying to get out of that headspace and focus on me and the things that are important to me. So I think, honestly, when I started therapy, my life truly changed for the better. I feel like everyone's always like, everybody needs to go to therapy, which I think is true because there's things that I never even thought about, from childhood, friendships, past relationships that like I didn't even think bothered me that much until I went to therapy and I like started talking, and then your therapist like makes you realize things and you're like, "Oh, maybe that like wasn't normal." Maybe like I have just always been quiet because like that sound that is like, were you silent or were you silenced? Like it's insane. I don't know. I think I've just, now that everything is on the table in therapy and I talk it out with an outside source that has no connection to me or friends or family members or anything like that, it's nice to have somewhere to like vent and somebody say, that's actually not okay that they did that. And you're like, oh, you're actually 1000% right. But like everybody else was telling me that it's completely normal. So that's just how I thought, life was supposed to be. But yeah, it definitely helps me face like any of my demons in a safe, non judgmental space. And I think now I set heavy boundaries, at least to me, they're heavy boundaries. I don't know. They could be like somebody else's normal day to day boundary. But like I said, people pleaser, it's kind of hard to step out of that space, at least in my experience. Um, and I think even when I had set boundaries in the past, people don't take it seriously because it's like, okay, it's not that big of a deal. But like, it's a big deal to me. And like, just because it's not a big deal to you doesn't mean that you can just kind of say, oh my God, don't take it that seriously. It's not a big deal. It is to me. So respect that. Otherwise, like, there doesn't need to become this relationship doesn't need to stay around if you're just gonna shit on my boundaries. And, in the past, it's kind of like I'll set a boundary, somebody will cross it, and then I just don't speak up on it. And I'm like, okay, well, now I'm uncomfortable, but like I'm going to be more uncomfortable voicing my opinion and them making me feel smaller than I am. So I've just kind of been like, whatever, I'm just going to sweep it under the rug, move on, and hopefully this doesn't happen again. And then the boundary just isn't there anymore. And I think once I realized how to voice my opinion and not care, like, if it makes them uncomfortable, that like helped me so much, because why am I going to risk my comfortability for somebody that doesn't give any shit about anything that I care for, or something that makes me uncomfortable? They're like, oh, whatever, like you're just being dramatic. And it's like, no, I'm not. I'm 1000% not being dramatic. You're just being an asshole. Point blank, period. And you just don't need those people in your life. And that's that. Like, if you have a boundary and you want people to stick to it, you need to like put your foot down and say, no, this is my boundary, X, Y, and Z. I need you to respect it. Otherwise, I don't need to be around you. And I feel like that wasn't that big of a thing to me until I had kids. And then it was like, no, these are my kids. These are my boundaries. If you're not going to respect them, you do not need to be around them. You don't need to be around me. We don't need this influence in our life. And unfortunately, it's super hard to cut people out of your life and not be seen as the villain or the bitch or whatever, however many words there are to be called. I don't care. I have reached a point where I've just lost any and all respect for somebody that just walks over somebody's boundary line, because it's just things that like I would never do to them. So like, why is it okay that they do it to me? And sometimes I think what I have learned the most is that, how do I word this? it's a hard pill to swallow. So I think saying it anytime out loud is like kind of crazy. But I think with family in particular, you don't get to pick your family, at least not your blood family. And I've never said this like publicly, so I'm just like, no, I know how it's probably going to be painted, but I think it's tough with family, blood family, because I have always had this in the back of my mind that it's like, does my family love me because they love me as a person? Or does my family love me because they feel obligated to love me because we are blood related? Like, outside of this blood relation, would we be friends? If we went to school together, would we be friends? If we worked together and we were coworkers, would we get along? Like, just because we're family does not mean anything to me personally, because I feel like family is the one that screws you over the most. And like I said previously, family, any close relationship, best friends, anything, what I have learned in the past is the closest people to you are probably the ones that are preying on your downfall. They are your secret haters, and not all of them, not everybody, but there's always like that one person that has like a bad motive or secretly does not like you or anything that you stand for. But they put up this front and are like, but we're best friends, but we're, you know, family. And it's like, okay, but that does not mean that you get to treat me like this. And for that reason, I'm cutting you off and I'm protecting my peace. That is it. And it's like the same thing when you grow apart from people. There's no like huge drama that needs to happen. Sometimes you just don't click and you grow up and you like new things. And that's totally fine. You do not need to feel like a villain or a bad person just because you outgrow somebody or have different opinions on stuff or whatever the case may be. You need to do what's best for you and the energy around you. Keep people that, have seen you at your lowest and continue to love you for you and support you and just are your biggest cheerleaders in life. And I've unfortunately have been like a chameleon, if you will, in the past and just kind of like morphed into who I wanted people to think I was, or if I felt I needed to change just to hang around with certain people or fit into my family, then I would change something. And even if it made me uncomfortable or isn't really how I wanted to act or react or whatever, I did it anyway because my friendships and my relationships were more important to me at the time than, you know, myself. And I think the more that you experience, obviously, you learn from. And some situations are so unfortunate because it's like, why was I put in this situation? But there's always a bigger plan, I guess. And sometimes you just have to go through some shitty things to see people's true colors. I think for me, in the way that I started protecting my peace was removing myself from situations where I just did not feel wanted. Or if I wasn't like invited places or left out, then I kind of just took that as okay, I don't need to be friends with so and so, or, you know, I just feel like there's always this thought in the back of your head, and your intuition is like 99% right most of the time. Listen to it because it's in your gut for a reason, and it's probably because you're right. And if you're like, does this person actually genuinely care about me? And if you're doubting that, then 9 times out of 10, If you disappeared, they probably would not notice or care to check on you, and you just need to remove yourself from those people. I am a big Pinterest girly, so I save quotes or mood boards, manifesting things. I just think if you think about it enough and believe it, it could happen. Delusion, my best friend, honestly. Um, you just have to be your biggest cheerleader and believe anything is possible because it is. And I think for me, Pinterest is like that. I'm a very visual person, so having things like in front of me, pictures, quotes, whatever, it's easier for me to like remember or really think about and just be like, this can happen, I can make it happen, and it's going to happen. So with that being said, there were like quotes that I saved, at least they helped me in regards to protecting my peace more serious. Um, and I think, let me see, these few in particular were ones that like resonated with me and helped me kind of take this more serious. Um, there's one that says, I no longer allow people to cause chaos within my life. I've learned that I'm deserving of peace, that I do not have to ask for love. I learned that I am allowed to choose who I want around me and who I never want near me. This life is the only thing that is truly mine, and I refuse to feel guilty for wanting tranquility. And I feel like that didn't hit me until I had like my second daughter. And I was like, I can choose who I want around us, and if I don't have a good relationship with you, my kids don't need to have you in their life, like they're not missing out on much, at least from my point of view, like you didn't care enough to check on me when I was sick and when I was pregnant and going through a hard time. So why do you care now that a baby is here and you just want to see the baby and have a good relationship with them, but you didn't care about me when I was going through this life-changing thing. And that alone just showed me true people's colors, because I feel like pregnancy is the most isolating experience, at least on my end. Maybe it could be different for everybody else, but I had never felt so alone in my entire life. And I think the people that really showed up for me will always just have a special golden place in my heart, because it is tough. And especially when you have a newborn and you are figuring things out, it truly takes a village. If you have a friend that has a new baby, go check on her. Go do a load of laundry for her, do the dishes for her, make sure that she is fed. The simplest thing, just just do it for them. I promise you. You will forever be their favorite person. And then another one is, next time someone tries to put you down, remember that confidence is quiet, but insecurity is loud. And I feel like everybody that leaves hate comments anywhere are just miserable in their own life. That's on them, not on you. So if somebody's going to be negative, it's because they're probably jealous that you're doing what you want to do and they're miserable in their own lives. And that's not on you. It will never be on you. That's their own issues. And I don't have time for that. So I'm over here protecting my peace. Thank you, though. I also like to think, observe it, don't absorb it. So if people show you who they really are, believe it the first time. It doesn't take multiple times, because after the first time, that's probably their true colors. And if they do something terrible, that's probably just how they are as a human being. Um, and if they're just negative or angry people, then observe that. Don't absorb it. Don't take it in. Don't, feel like you also need to be angry because you're near them, or, doubt yourself because they're the negative energy around you. That's once again on them. You'll find your own people. You'll find your people that will be there for you and be your cheerleaders and in your corner at all times. Another one is I spent a lot of time working on my own toxic traits. So believe me when I say the last thing I'm going to do is be the lesson that shows someone all of their own skeletons. Been there, done that. I never wanted to be a doctor. Sorry, you heal on your own, just like I did. Come find me later and we can talk about how good the peace feels, and then you will finally understand why I protected it at all costs. So, like I said, people will paint you as this villain or this bitchy person or an asshole, and honestly, let them. Who cares? Like, it is tough cutting people off, don't get me wrong, but once you learn that there are people out there that truly want the best for you, it's not that hard. I think it's harder to be around these people and fake a smile and just like pretend to want to be around them when like you just really don't, because it is so draining to fake a friendship or fake a relationship, and it's just not fun because nobody deserves to be emotionally or mentally drained at their own expense voluntarily, like why do you want to put yourself in that situation? You don't need that, I promise you. I think for me in the beginning, majority of my life, wherever it came from, I have always kind of just felt like a burden or a disappointment to people because I think I'm so different than like how I grew up, I guess. And that's not like a negative thing. I just think, obviously, like I said before, like you don't get to choose where you're born or the, huge family that you're surrounded by. And I think I have just always kind of felt a little different, or the way that I had like the way that I think. Um, but I think also it happens with like age and generations. I am the youngest of like all of my family, other than my siblings. But where I fall in my family, I am like one of the babies. I'm younger. I've always had like older cousins, and I think just being younger, I grew up in a different kind of a generation, I think, and where we believe anything is possible and we are capable, and I don't know, whatever it might be. But I had just always felt like I did not belong. And I think with that and having like older cousins, I was always like made fun of, or I was like a crybaby. And so that just like put me in this shell of like, okay, well, I need to protect myself. And in order to do that, I need to just go with the flow or just do whatever they're trying to do to be cool, because I don't want to be bullied, or I don't, want to be like the crybaby. Oh, she's crying again. Like she's telling on us, blah, blah, blah. So I just kind of performed, like to stay wanted and to be wanted in the family or whatever. So I think from a young age, I have just always been a people pleaser because I wanted to fit in and I wanted to be wanted. And it was such a good feeling when somebody was like, oh my gosh, let's invite Cheyenne, like it was great because it's like, oh my gosh, like somebody wants to hang out with me. Even with friendships, and it's like when there's like cool people in school, you obviously like want to be their friends and you don't want to be like on their bad side. And it is great to be wanted and it's great to be involved, and be associated with some people. But then you reach a certain point to where you're like, who am I really apart from all of this? Apart from being friends with so and so, or, who am I outside of this relationship? And it hit me like a ton of bricks after I graduated high school because I had a huge friend group. And this can be a whole other episode, but I had a huge friend group and I was always so used to having these huge like parties like Friendsgiving or Secret Santa, whatever. We had a huge group in high school. Looking at it now, no wonder it didn't work out. I'm not really in contact like with a lot of them, like 90% of them, and like wish them well. I love all of them. Still follow them on social media, at least most of them. And I'm so happy when they have big wins and everything, but looking at it from somebody in their mid 20s now, it's like, well, yeah, obviously, like all 50 of you weren't going to stay friends. Like, you grow apart, you grow up, and you learn to be your own person. But in that time and being in that friend group in high school, it's like, oh my gosh, this is the best ever. Like, we get to have all these big parties, and, it was just so much fun. But I think being in the friend group at the time, it was like, oh my gosh, I need to be like all of my friends, and we need to go through the same things at the same time so we can like relate to each other. But it's okay to be your own person. Yes, you'll most likely lose friends, relationships, whatever, but in the end, it is just so rewarding to figure out who you are and have people around you that have common interests and are just as passionate about things that you are. And it doesn't need to be like exact, like me and my best friend, we are so similar, but also we have so many differences, and sometimes opposites attract and it works out, but when you have people that like hate on everything that you do or don't understand it, it is so draining on every aspect, mentally, emotionally. Like, it's tough to be in that situation, and getting out is like the best thing that has ever happened to me. And I am so thankful that now at least I realize what protecting your peace means, protecting my peace means. I think just realizing how easy it is to protect my peace is just 10 out of 10. I recommend everybody protects their peace because let me tell you, life changing. So if you need a sign to cut that friendship off, if you need a sign to take that step away from your family, if you need a sign to get out of that toxic relationship, take this as your sign. It's so much better on the other side. It's so peaceful, so quiet. It's so rewarding. And it's just nice. It's as simple as that. It's nice and it's enjoyable. It's going to be hard in the beginning. Not going to lie to you about that, but in the end, you win. You're at peace. You are capable of having a happy life. And coming from somebody that even has mental health issues like anxiety, I've gone through depression, I've had terrible things happen in my life. But I think when you have a positive mindset or even just positive people around you, it's so nice to feel at peace with your life or feel at peace with decisions that have been made so long ago. I just feel like so much lighter, if that makes sense. Like, I just feel like I always had this weight on my shoulder. And I think the weight on my shoulder was just everybody's negativity around me, or lies that I had to keep up to be around certain people, just to like conform to whatever they wanted me to be like, or who I thought that they wanted me to be like. Once I just like let all of that go and had the mindset of, I'm going to protect myself and my peace and my kids' peace and my peace from my friendships that I am wanting to keep, everything else just kind of like goes away. At least for me. Like I said, this is all from my perspective and things that I have learned. But I have been through dark stuff, let me tell you. But I think just dealing with some things head on, as uncomfortable as it is, in the end, it's fine. You work through them. You find your people. You find your peace, your happiness. And honestly, I just like stopped caring. I think I stopped caring about protecting people that would not go out of their way to protect me. Or I stopped caring about hurting people's feelings because they're doing it to me. And like, why do I want to be around people like that? Why do I want to put myself in a situation that is so uncomfortable and makes me like cringe on the inside? And you just know that you should not be here in this situation, but you're like willing to put up with it for their comfortability. You do not need that. Get out of that situation. Stop talking to those people. Protect your peace. Protect your peace, girl. That's it. That's literally all that you need. And I think just not caring takes time for sure. But what do you have to lose? A bad friendship? A bad relationship? You're not losing anything that's important. I promise you that. And things will get better. You'll find a better friendship. You'll find a better relationship, a better chosen family, if you will. And that's that. Yeah, I think that is all that I need to say for this episode. I don't want to go like too off topic, but definitely will make like a friendship breakup kind of video. That will go more in depth on friendships and how shitty they can be, but also how great they can be. And yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope that you took something from this episode, and whatever you are going through, you will get through it. And even if it's hard right now and you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, it's there. And you have people for you. There's people that are in your corner, and if there's not, send me a DM. I will be in your corner. Let me know what's going on. And yeah, if you liked this episode, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow on social media. Everything will be down below if you are watching on YouTube. If not, then you can follow the podcast Instagram, which is at dontbecheypod. And then in the bio, there's links to absolutely everything: the podcast where you can listen, my social media, the podcast social media, etc., etc. But yes, I hope that you enjoyed and took some kind of information from this. And yeah, I don't know. But I will see you in the next episode. Bye.